Hello guys, welcome back to Tech Radiance. In today's video, we're going to do the Tailwind crash course. So in our last video, we actually talked about how we can do the Tailwind crash course, and we talked about the resources that we need to be able to complete this course and how you can acquire them. So we talked about Frontend Mentor in that last video, and it's an amazing platform. It provides a lot of free resources for doing front-end projects, and I will put the link down in the description below. You guys can go ahead and check it out. In today's video, we're going to do Tailwind crash course, Tailwind CSS crash course. You guys must have already know about Tailwind CSS. This is a very popular CSS framework, and right now I'm in TailwindCSS.com, and this is the official website for Tailwind CSS. So throughout my video, I'll keep referring onto the TailwindCSS.com, and I would highly encourage you guys to pause my video time to time and go to the tailwind.com, check out the documentations and learn more about it. In this way, you'll be able to learn a lot more about Tailwind CSS than just watching this video. So if we see the folder architecture, I've already created the folder and it's currently empty, except it contains an image folder which contains some SVGs. So these SVGs are the free resources that we got from Frontend Mentor, and I talked about them in my last video. So I would highly suggest you guys to go ahead and check that video out and get this free resource, because if you guys are coding along, then you will need these resources. So let's go back to the tailwindcs.com and let's check out their documentations. So at first there is some installation guides. So you can install Tailwind with Tailwind CLI or using Post CSS, and they have the CDN too. So you can use whatever you want, but in this video you're going to use the Tailwind CLI, and CLI stands for command line interface. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to install Tailwind CSS as a dev dependency. That's where that -d comes in. So I'll just copy paste the code, and right now we are installing Tailwind CSS. And actually I haven't initialize this project, so let me quickly do an npm init -y, so it will be yes for all the flags. My mistake. So we have this package.json, and we will be able to maintain our dependency, and we will be able to write scripts in here. We already have some test script which you don't need. So the Tailwind CSS is getting installed, and let's check the other commands. So the next command is tailwind init, which will actually generate the tailwind config.js file, which is a very powerful file, and it's a mandatory file for having or doing Tailwind CSS. And why I'm saying that this is a very powerful file, because you'll be able to customize it a lot more, and throughout your whole project all of those customization will work, and it's so flawless. So let's actually run this command, npx tailwind css init. And by the way guys, npm, this comes with node.js. so npm stands for node package manager, and you need to install node.js in your system to be able to have access to npm. So if you don't have npm, just go ahead to nodejs.org and install the latest version of node.js, and you'll have access to npm. So if executed this command, and as you guys can see, it has generated a tailwind's config.js file, and right now it's empty. So if you go back to the documentation, you can see the content is pointing to some HTML and JS file. We'll just simply copy this part and paste it right here. So you guys can see that they're actually pointing to some source folder and then anything in that, and it's a nested architecture. But as we are doing a very simple Tailwind crash course, and we'll be converting this UI into the web page. So it's going to be basically HTML CSS project, and we're not doing any complex folder architecture. So we're going to put everything in our root directory. I'm going to cut that source folder right here, and we also don't need the JS part. And here you can put an start sign, and it will actually grab any prefix you have put before your HTML file. But we have we actually don't have anything right now, but we will create an index.html next. So I will actually name it index.html. So what Tailwind will do, Tailwind will watch my index.html, and whatever the class name I write here, Tailwind will pull the CSS behind it and put them into an output directory, and we'll quickly see how Tailwind will do this. So first of all, we need to create a CSS file, and I'm going to call it style.css. You guys can call it whatever you want, and I'm going to put it in my root directory. As I've already said, we're going to follow a very basic folder architecture, but if you guys see here, they're actually putting the input.css file inside the source folder, and we don't have the source folder, and we don't care about that right now. So next is this command, which actually compiles the whatever CSS you write inside input.css, and it actually print it out on output.css. So we are not going to execute this command directly. We're going to use package.json file, and we are going to write a command. So let's say CSS build and paste it here. So I just want to show you guys quickly, if we delete the watch flag, and right now if we actually execute, or let's use just npm run css build. So what this will do, this will actually this is not going to work because I put source here. We don't have source, and our css file is does not call input.css. it's actually style.css, and also we don't want to put the output.css file that Tailwind generates into a dist folder. We also want that in our root directory. And in our HTML file, let's quickly generate a boilerplate. I'm using VS Code right now. You guys can use some shorthand syntax to quickly generate some HTML. I'm going to call this blogger. So if we actually execute this command right now, you guys can see it will generate an output CSS file. It's right here. So if you go to this file, it's very big, right? So what's happening is it's actually getting all of this, and we put the Tailwind CSS, different Tailwind CSS components right in here, and it actually getting compiled and written into this output.css file. So all you need to do right now is include that output.css inside our HTML, and everything should work. So output.css. Alright, have we configured Tailwind? Yep, we did. So let's write a very basic HTML right now, and I'm going to use an h1 tag. Let's say hello tech radiance. And in VS Code, I've installed something called live server, and what it does, it quickly provides you with a live server, and it's very handy. And as you guys can see, hello tech radiance is getting rendered. Now let's put some CSS classes, Tailwind classes, and we'll say here text 5xl, also text red 500. These are both Tailwind CSS classes, and I will quickly go to the documentation and show you guys what these actually converts into. So the CSS conversion isn't working right now, and that's because if you go back to package.json, we've deleted the watch flag. There's just watch flag last time, if you guys remember. So what is happening right now is Tailwind is watching this index.html file, and all the changes we have made, Tailwind doesn't know about it because it's not watching the index.html file anymore, because we have made it manual command. So every time we run this command, Tailwind actually check index.html file and all the classes we put here, and then it will actually convert all of these into CSS. So what we'll do right now, we'll create another command. We'll keep the previous one just for reference, and we'll say dash watch again, and this time we'll say CSS watch. And right now if we execute this command, So you guys will see that the window doesn't get closed. Okay, so this is running, right? And if you go back to our live server, here you can see that the Tailwind is in action here. If we change something in the index.html, let's say we change the red to purple and it turned purple, so it's magic, right? So let's quickly go through the documentation and see what we are dealing with right here. So first of all, I want to mention the Tailwind colors, because Tailwind have a variety of color palette and it's amazing. And you guys can see there are names like lime, emerald, teal, and then indigo, violet. There are some very nice color names and there are a variety of colors, right? So you guys can pick anything from here and this will work. So all you have to do is write text and then the color name and then the values. Choose a value from right here. You guys can also put custom color codes. So you guys can do like text and then, okay, let me show you guys quickly. So if I say text and here let's say red or let's say orange and you go back, so see this has turned into orange. So this is very handy because you can write custom color codes here and that will render, and it's still Tailwind, right? It's still getting compiled into regular CSS by Tailwind. So this is very handy and very quick and easy thing. So as I've already said, I would highly encourage you guys to pause the video time to time and go ahead and check Tailwind CSS and search all of this, right? We are not going to cover all of this in this video as this is a crash course, and maybe in future we'll have a full course of Tailwind and we'll cover everything on that video. So another thing I was talking about in the beginning of this video is Tailwind config.js it's a very powerful file, right? So why this is a very powerful file? So if you guys see here under module export, under theme, you guys can add custom colors. So you guys can name them any way you want, and then you'll be able to put some hex values, and you guys will be able to use these custom names throughout your whole project, and that's very convenient, right? And you can do a lot more than just having colors. You can see it's actually defining a new color with different range of intensity, right? You can also put custom media screen sizes, so responsiveness is another thing. And another thing is, guys, we are not going to cover responsiveness in this video. This is outside the scope of this video and I don't want to make this video very long. So as you will be converting this UI into HTML CSS, I will be pulling some HTML CSS code that I've already written, so that you guys don't have to watch all these boring HTML CSS writing, and things will be much faster. I will explain everything as we go along. So I've already referred this color page, so you guys can come here and check everything out. There is screens covers the media screens, which is actually responsible for the responsiveness of your website. And there is spacing, you can define custom spacing, and there are a lot of other things as well. So in our Blogger site, if you go back to our code, let's actually clear this, and I will be pulling some code, and specifically right now I'll pull this top section and it will be rendered right here. Guys, I have pulled the code. You can see it's quite a bit of code, and if you go check out our web page here, so it's the top section. If you compare it to the UI, it looks quite a lot similar. So let's go ahead and check out the code. So I'm using a section right here, and we're using an image, and this image is actually the background SVG that you are seeing, and all of these resources we have right here in our image folder, and I've talked about how you can acquire that resources. So we are actually defining overflow X hidden. So what this does is later on you'll see that we have UI that is actually going outside of the whole body, and we don't want any overflows, horizontal overflows. So we are actually defining overflow X, which actually cuts out any excessive UI that goes outside the scope, and it will cut it out. So in the section we're using W full, which actually stands for with 100%, and then we are using gradient color. Yes guys, we are using gradient, and it's also baked into Tailwind CSS. And if we search quickly, and you can search through with command K, or if you're using Mac, you can run the command K, and if you're using Windows or anything else, you can run the CTRL or Control K, and it will pop up this window. And then simply just search here. I'll search gradient, and you can see it's already showing me gradient color stops, and they have all these beautiful example. You guys can go through it, and again pause the video, go through this, go through all of this, and you'll be able to learn a lot more like this. So we are using gradient to L stands for left, so it's a gradient from right to left, and we have defined a from color and a to color, and we are using some custom color because in this UI the colors actually doesn't match with the Tailwind colors that comes baked in, so that's why we are using custom colors. And then we have overflow hidden because of this background SVG, which is actually going outside the div, and we don't use overflow hidden. It will actually leak out and cause some UI overflow, which you don't want. And then we have created a custom value for rounded BL. Rounded is actually stands for the border radius, and it's responsible for the border radius. So we're using bottom left border radius, which is actually doing this curve thing right here. And then inside, this is the nav section, and you can see we have another div, and we have a nested div architecture right here, and we are using flexbox. So Tailwind flexbox is very smooth, very nice. All you have to do is just call flex, and then they have some predefined classes. If you quickly check flex in Tailwind documentation, you'll be able to see all of the things that it provides that comes with flexbox, and you guys can go through it. So flex basis, you can see it has some flex basis, flex direction, if you want row or column or row reverse, and it also shows you what are the CSS that's going to be written for this class. So this is very handy, right? So I would highly suggest you guys to go ahead and check all of that. And we have these two buttons here, which is the login and sign up button, and we are using outline none and border none. What these do, it's actually avoiding any border, or if we actually try to click on this, you guys won't see any outline. So outline none is doing just that. Also text XL, you guys saw right at the beginning that we were using text 5XL, so there are some different scale for how large you can make the text, and we're using text white obviously. And in the middle part, again we're using flexbox, and this time we are using flex direction, which is actually column, because we have multiple div here, and in this case we have some h1 tag, a paragraph tag, and then some div tags. So we want all of this tagged, not in a horizontal line. So that's why we actually using flex col, which actually stands for flex direction column. You guys can go ahead and check the documentation out. So this is the first section, and if we collapse it, I'll pull the next section. Okay guys, so I have pulled the next section, and if you go check out our UI, it's already rendered right here. So designed for the future, and we have this big SVG. It's a one piece SVG, and it also comes with the free pack from Frontend Mentor. And if you check the HTML this time, it's the same HTML over and over again, and you'll be able to see that we are using something called PY40. And if you guys have used Bootstrap before, you guys already know that what it does. It's actually padding on y-axis, so it's padding top and padding bottom. And 40, this all numbers, it converts to RAM units. If we go ahead and search padding, and here you can see, so PT1, it's converting to 0.25 RAM. So most of the things in Tailwind, they're using RAM units, and there are some different units for CSS. There is pixel, which actually stands per pixel. There is RAM, there is M, there is viewport height, viewport width. There are quite a few units in CSS. You guys can look it up. Just do a basic Google search and you'll be able to see all of them. So we are using padding top and padding bottom 40, and again we are using width 100%, and we are using the flex box. So in the top section we have this title right here, and we want it to be large, so we are using text 5XL, and we're using font medium, and what it does is actually increase the font weight of that element. So we are making it a bit more bulky, so you're using font medium. And there are units like font bold and then font semi bold, and you guys can look it up. We'll do a quick search and just search font weight, and here is all the units that you can use. And below that we have the two paragraph here, and for these we are actually using flex again, and this time we are using justify center and item start, which is actually item start is actually converts to align item start, flex start, and justify center just centers everything up. So for this div we are actually centering all of this, and then we are using some margin left 32. So ML stands for margin left, MT here stands for margin top, and W1 divided by 3 is actually, if you actually convert the whole screen into 3 part, so one out of this 3 part, the width of one part, this div section right here, that's actually what W1/3 is. And also guys, in the image section here, if you have already noticed, we're using top 16 and then some custom value for the width. So top 16 is actually are using for the positioning property. So we have marked this image as absolute, so it will be positioned absolute to the whole relative div, and from the parent div, from the top section, it will be 16 unit down. So what 16 is, if we actually quickly search for top, and right here is showing top right bottom left, and if we scroll a bit down we can see 16 right here. So 16 is convert to 4 RAM. So this image section is 4 RAM down from the parent div. So that's what it indicates, and you can learn a lot about how to position any element you want, if you mark them as an absolute element or fixed element, and you'll be able to position them accordingly. And also you can use some custom values. If you check right here, we are using a negative value for the right hand section, and we are using 20 RAM for the unit value. So this is this section, and I'm going to pull the next section. So I pull the next section of code, and if we save it and go check our browser, and this is the next section, this is the third section, and if we check the UI again, it looks quite similar, and somehow they actually didn't make the SVG look exactly like the same, and it's not a big deal. So if we check right here, we are using an image again, but this time we are using 2 images. So what they did, they actually didn't merge this background SVG and this top SVG together like this one. They both came separate, and we have to use them separately. But there is an interesting thing. If you check that SVG in the background, it's actually getting cut out in this div, but the SVG on the top is not getting cut out. So what we did is, we actually put the iPhone SVG right in the top, and which actually doesn't get cut out by the div. If you guys check the CSS or classes right here, we're not using any overflow hidden attributes or overflow hidden classes. And for the section behind, right behind it, we are actually calling overflow hidden right here, and that's what actually causing this SVG to be to getting cut out. So we are putting the SVG right here, and again we're using some positioning CSS right here. We're using scale to enlarge the whole SVG, and then we're using margin top and margin left to actually position it accordingly, just like the UI. and on the right hand side we have all this text, and again the text CSS are basically same for almost all of it. We're just changing the text color, and this time we're using width 2x3. So if you again imagine the screen is 3 part, so we are using 2 part worth of width, and we're using opacity 70, which is actually making this white text a bit dim. And there is the fourth section, and I will quickly pull the fourth section codes. So guys, I have pulled out that fourth section codes, and if we save it and we go check out our browser, this is the fourth section right here, and it doesn't contain any heading, right, like this one. So it's all one after another section. And if we go and check out the code, again we are using py 40, so it's padding top and padding bottom 40, and we are using width 100%, and we are using flexbox. So all of this UI, if you need some UI like this which is actually side by side, you need to use flexbox. And there is also another thing in CSS which is called grid. So grid is more advanced, you have more refined control with grid, but that makes the grid a little bit complex. So I'd highly suggest for beginners to stick with flexbox and try to understand flexbox, because you'll be able to do almost everything with flexbox. But if you are converting any high level UI, then you can use grid, no problem. So if we check the UI again, we are actually using the image, and we are using some positional attributes, again some CSS to position them as we want. And this time we are using negative value for the left section. So what this is doing is pushing this SVG into the left side, and as we are using overflow hidden in the body section, it actually getting cut out. And for this text, it's almost the same CSS for almost all of them. So you're using text base, which is actually a very small font size. I think it's font size 12 pixel. And then we are using text slate color. So there is two type of grayish color. One is text gray, and then there is text slate. And I actually like the slate over the gray one. So I am using slate in almost all of the text color here. So this wraps up the HTML for this third part. And if you check the UI again, so all there is left is the footer section, and now I'm going to pull the codes for the footer section. So guys, I pulled the code for the footer section, and if we save and go check out in the browser, there is the footer section. And if you go back and check out this code, we're using something called justify around, which actually converts to justify content around, which actually puts space in all the places, right? So justify between, if you have two elements and you put justify between, so both element will get pushed to two corners. If you put justify center, so they'll all be brought in center like here. And if you're using justify around, what it will do, it will put some space here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and lastly in here. So it's putting some space evenly across all the div. So this is the type of UI it actually turns out. And as we are converting this UI into HTML template, so we are actually doing the exact same thing. And if we go ahead and check all of this CSS, and this actually are for this part, and again we're using text color white here, and then we're using opacity 70 to dim them down. And if you see the highlighting section right here, we're using text white, and MB it stands for margin bottom, and it's actually pushing all this section down, and we're repeating all of this for all of this section. So this actually completes our website. And if you actually check this whole thing, it's all written in HTML and Tailwind. And yes, we are using some custom values, and that's because we are actually converting a specific UI and turning that into an HTML page. So we need to use some specific colors that actually accommodates that UI that we have. That's why we're using some custom values. But you get the idea. You can do any projects you want, and you can convert any projects into a beautiful HTML CSS template just by using Tailwind classes. And if you guys have gone through the Tailwind documentations, you can see they do have a variety of options you can pick from it. And I actually went with some custom value because there was obviously shortage of time. So I really hope you guys learned something from this video. I know this is a bit short video even for being a crash course, but I tried to show as much as I can. And then there are some different class names. You guys definitely need to pause the video from time to time and check all of these classes, and maybe just copy them and then Control K or Command K and then search them. So this will be able to learn a lot more about all of these Tailwind classes and what they are getting converted into. So I highly suggest you guys to do that. And if you guys want, I can put this into a GitHub repository, public repository, and I'll share the link with you guys so that you can have access to these codes. So just let me know in the comment down below if you guys want this code base. If you guys are looking forward to any other courses, just let me know in the comment down below and I will try to make that course. And later on, if you guys are really looking forward to learning more about Tailwind CSS, maybe I'll do a full course. So I'll catch you guys in the next video, and until then, bye bye.